On a quiet Wednesday night in 1950, a small wood-framed church in Nebraska was blown apart by a gas explosion, and not a single person was inside. Not one. Every person who was supposed to be there for choir practice was running late, held up by a remarkable series of different excuses and delays. This is the story of the West Side Baptist Church explosion, and it might be one of the strangest true coincidences in American history. It happened in Beatrice, Nebraska, a small town about 40 miles south of Lincoln, the kind of place where a Wednesday night church service is as much a part of the weekly rhythm as Sunday morning itself. The date was March 1st, 1950. Choir practice at West Side Baptist Church was scheduled the same time it always was, 7:20 in the evening. This was a regular Wednesday ritual, the kind that had repeated itself so many times it had become almost automatic. The choir was reliable. They showed up. Week after week, the choir members arrived in time to warm up, sheet music rustling, the same small routine playing out inside the same small building. But not this Wednesday. This Wednesday, all 15 people expected at practice were late. And here's the part that still fascinates people decades later. There was no snowstorm keeping everyone home, no town event pulling people away, no single cause you could point to and say, "Ah, that explains it." Instead, several separate, completely ordinary lives all happened to hit small delays at the same time, in the same short window of minutes. Picture it happening all across town, all at once, none of them knowing about each other. Different households, different small dramas, none of them dramatic at all in the moment, just the ordinary friction of getting somewhere on time. In one house, the pastor and his wife were still getting a clean dress ready for their young daughter after the one she had been wearing was soiled. Just a few more minutes. Just let me finish this one thing. The iron hissing over the fabric while the clock crept past the hour. Elsewhere, a car sat refusing to start on a cold Nebraska night, delaying not only its owner but the people who depended on that ride. One choir member was still finishing a letter. A high school student was stuck on a geometry problem. The church pianist, who had meant to arrive early, fell asleep after supper, and her mother, the choir director, was delayed with her. Two other girls were late because one wanted to hear the end of a radio program and the other waited for her. None of these people were trying to be late. None of them had a reason to think this night was any different from all the other Wednesday nights before it. They were just living ordinary lives, caught by the kind of small delays we all encounter without a second thought. Finish the ironing. Work out the homework problem. Try the car again. Complete the letter. Wait for a friend. Small, forgettable moments, the kind that would never normally be worth mentioning to anyone, let alone remembering more than 70 years later. And every single one of those small, unremarkable delays turned out to matter more than anyone could have imagined. Because at about 7:25 that evening, just 5 minutes after practice was supposed to start, the West Side Baptist Church exploded. Firefighters believed natural gas had leaked into the building from a broken pipe outside and was ignited by the church furnace. In an instant, the sanctuary where 15 people were supposed to be gathering to warm up their voices was torn apart. The walls fell outward. The heavy wooden roof came down. Windows in nearby homes shattered. Sheet music and songbooks scattered through the wreckage of a building that, minutes earlier, should have been full of people going about their normal Wednesday routine. If the choir had been on schedule, if even one or two of those small delays hadn't happened, this would be a very different story, a tragic one, the kind that leaves a small town changed forever. Instead, when the dust settled and the town came running toward the sound of the blast, they found something almost impossible to process. Nobody had been inside. Not one person at choir practice was injured or killed. A church had been destroyed, reduced to broken wood, brick, and scattered debris, and every person who belonged inside it was still out in the town, still finishing a letter, still waiting on a car, still listening to the radio, alive, safe, and about to find out just how close they'd come to being in that building when it came down. Word spread through Beatrice fast, and it wasn't just relief people felt, it was disbelief. Because this wasn't a choir that was famously unpunctual, a group known for straggling in whenever they felt like it. This was a group whose members generally arrived in time to practice. For all 15 people to be delayed on the same night, no shared emergency, no single event tying it all together, nothing anyone could point to as the explanation, is the kind of coincidence that has been retold for decades specifically because it's so hard to believe it actually happened. And that's really what makes this story stick with people. It's not a story about a hero pulling anyone from danger. Nobody made a dramatic choice to save the day. There was no warning, no premonition, no single decision that averted disaster. It was a collection of unremarkable moments, the kind that happen in every town, every night, all across the country, in kitchens and driveways and living rooms nobody would ever think twice about, that happen to line up at exactly the right time, without a single one of the people involved having any idea what they were avoiding. Try to imagine being one of those 15. Imagine being the mother finishing the ironing, annoyed at yourself for running behind, muttering about the time as you rush to get the dress ready. Imagine being the student, half frustrated by a geometry problem, finally grabbing your coat and heading for the door, expecting nothing more eventful than another ordinary choir practice. Imagine getting to the church minutes later and finding out that the ordinary, forgettable thing that made you late that night was the reason you're standing there at all, looking at a pile of rubble where the church used to be. Beatrice, Nebraska is a small town. It didn't ask to become famous for a night like this. But the story of the church that exploded with no one inside has traveled far beyond Nebraska's borders, showing up in collections of remarkable true coincidences, and in the kind of "you won't believe this really happened" conversations that get passed down for generations. It's the rare disaster story that isn't really about the disaster at all. It's about everything that quietly had to go right in several completely different ways for nobody to be there when it happened. Was it luck? Coincidence? Something else? People have debated that for more than 70 years, and honestly, that's part of what makes it such a great story. There's no tidy answer, no single explanation that wraps it all up neatly. Just 15 ordinary people, a series of ordinary delays, and one extraordinary night in the middle of America where all of it somehow lined up just right. If stories like this one, the strange, the true, and the unmistakably American, are your kind of thing, stick around. There are a lot more of them where this came from. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.